This is what I tell them. The ISA's job is to shake the tree. The ISA's job is to get someone that's willing to take the call, right? The ISA's job is not to set the appointment to go list the property. Sometimes people approach for sale by owners and ISAs that way. Hey, yeah, it should be a come list me from a FSBO. I'm like, you haven't done a lot of FSBO calling, have you, right? So that's not usually how it goes, right? But the ISA should do that methodical follow. Like you said, Calvin, that's where they add the most value.
These are real buyers that will show up. We write letters for those. We're very specific in the letters that we write. So let's say it's Nick Baldwin. I'm going to write up the letter and it's going to say, hey, Mr. Seller, I've got a husband and a wife, Nick and Ann, and they're looking for this single family residence. It's in your neighborhood.
We are all set. Welcome so much. If you are curious about how somebody closed 47 transactions in his first year working with ISAs, then you are in for a real treat today. We have Gus, CEO of PowerISA, interviewing our special guest today, Calvin. And I am really excited to hear this story and learn more because I could use an ISA. So let's take it away, Gus. Please introduce yourself and tell them where you're from, and stay tuned because we have a special offer for you guys too.
Awesome. Great. Thanks so much, Tara, for that. It's me, Gus, founder and CEO of PowerISA. Been doing the whole ISA game since 2015. We've helped over 1,200 real estate agents, loan officers, and investors add leverage to their businesses, bump up their numbers or productivity by finding them great inside sales talent, right? So that's kind of what we do. And today we have an even more special guest than me. I have a super special guest, ultra special guest. And this is Calvin Shropshire out of Chattanooga, Tennessee. And he's been a joy to work with, like a great client of PowerISA. And he's had amazing success. And he's, gone on to he's coached other clients of ours and connected with a lot of great people, even here in LCA. So he's been awesome to work with as a client, as a partner on a lot of these different webinars. It's the second time he's on us, with us here on LCA. So love Calvin. Calvin, why don't you introduce yourself? Kind of what got you, a little bit of your background. I think that's really relevant. Your background, what got you into real estate, and what got you into adding ISAs on your team? Go for it.
First off, hey, shout out to Calvin Bolden in Florida as well, too. Just want to say hi. Saw him in the chat there. So I actually got into real estate in 2005 and promptly got out in 2007 after never selling a property at all. We, through the encouragement of my wife, got back into real estate in 2012. I was doing IT work for Unum, for a disability insurance company, for several years, and hesitantly I ended up taking her advice, got back into it. And it's interesting to fail at real estate the first time to now being a broker owner. So I have the Premier Group team, which I still own, and then also have a brokerage that I own as well too. We've expanded into Nashville, and we're now getting ready to look into expanding into Knoxville as well too. So it's been an amazing journey. Got a core group of people that are amazing to work with. And we actually just went over a new product we're introducing into the company today, which we're super excited about. But yeah, I'll tell you something that's been very helpful is going through the process of having those ISAs with you. And I'm telling you, I've tried every company you can think of to get ISAs. And this one has definitely been the most successful one that I've had. Well, it has been, because I think we've done it now for 3 years with you, 2 years, somewhere around there.
Second year.
Yeah. And it's been really good. And so learned a lot through it, but man, if I could go back and do it over again, I wouldn't change a thing.
Awesome.
Except for the amount of money I spent on the other companies. I would change that. That's another crap load of money.
Yeah, absolutely, Calvin. And thank you for that, for the kind words. And I want to jump into it because I know what people are asking right now. I know what they're thinking, like, holy, they see the results you've gotten. And that was the first year. We haven't talked about second year. but that was the first year, a full year with the team on there. So I guess my question to you is, how did you, so, because ISA is one part of the equation, right? Having the right person, making the calls, following up, and that's great. But there are one part of the equation. Tell us, share with us, right? Give us some of those golden nuggets of what were these ISAs calling? Because I know your team is unique to where you have like a bunch of different lead sources, both inbound and outbound. Which I thought was, that not a lot of people do that. They usually go only internet or they go only prospecting. It's rare when you see some people kind of mix it up, right? So, and I know you guys do buyer leads and seller leads, and you do outbound, and you do a lot of these different things. So I would love to, give us the 10,000 foot view and go, great. You had a system in place, right, to generate leads, and you put the ISAs in there to help you with the conversion process. That's awesome. But can you talk a little bit about the whole system from kind of that bird's eye view? Because I know that's a burning question people have. What can I get my ISA to call that's going to get me anywhere near those kinds of results? So go for that.
So I think the biggest thing is understanding your pillars of business, right? That's something I learned. I learned early on from my coach before he was my coach, which is really interesting. So we have 3 pillars of business. We do PPC leads, we do social media leads, and then we do FSBOs and expireds. And that's initially when I got back into business, what I built my business off of was for sale by owners. And so just kind of piggyback onto that. So knowing when I knew the ISAs to call. So right now, the ISAs we have right now, they primarily focus on seller leads. And then occasionally when we're out of those, they'll pop in and go on the PPC leads or look for PPCs that are sellers as well too. So when they register, of course, they have information they fill out and let us know kind of what they're doing. They also capitalize on the AI that we have. So when they see the opportunities in there, they'll jump on those and convert those as well too. It's interesting because I asked my ops manager, someone had messaged me on Instagram about your company. And he was like, well, how many appointments are they setting? So I was in the room with her and I was like, how many do they set a day? And she said 10 to 13 right now a day. And I was like, oh crap. Okay, really? Wow. So the issue we're having now is like, we need more agents. That's what our focus has been.
I think it's worth repeating. So so how many people are on your ISA team right now?
So we just have 2 right now.
Okay, 2. So 2. So 2 ISAs are setting 10 to 13 appointments per day for you, right?
Monday through Friday.
And that is, and what would you say? They're mostly focusing on sellers. They're mostly focusing on sellers, right? They call everything, they're mostly focusing on sellers. That's amazing. And what would you say are the best converting lead sources for you guys? Is it everything equally, or what do they hit first? What do they call first thing in the morning?
Hands down for sale by owners.
Got you.
Hands down for sale by owners. There's no question about that. I would say for sale by owners and then Google leads. Then it's a toss up between the social media and the canceled and expired leads, but easily for sale by owners then Google leads. And we do some of the Opcity and stuff like that, but those kind of go into the agents first before they go to the ISAs.
I got you. No, that's awesome. And and let's unpack that. There's a lot of really good questions there. There's a lot of really good things I want to drill into. But for example, let's grab one of those. Example of those for sale by owners. How do you recommend that an ISA approach those calls to add value? Because a lot of agents feel that the agents need to make those calls, right? Oh, like ISA can't do this. They can't help me with a for sale by owner. What process do you have? What sequence of events do you have that starts with the ISA making those calls?
Well, I'll tell you this, the one thing where the ISAs capitalize on this that the agents can't, and this is my own experience as well too, a lot of times I don't get for sale by owners the first call, right? Yeah, but they're consistent in their follow-up, whereas agents are not. And that's the key. That's the key. Yeah. So when they're following up once a week, every week on the dot, every Monday or every Tuesday, every week. And that consistency And it's a simple conversation. Hey, the weekend went by. I just wanted to see if you received any offers, see if you had any questions. Are you open now to possibly seeing if there's an opportunity to help you net more money on your home? Fantastic. I'd love to get you in touch with one of our sales partners. And then we use Calendly, which I love that. They just go on the Calendly, plug it in. We have this, would weekends or weekdays be better for you? If they say weekdays, they look, we'll see what's available. Click on that, set the appointment, and it fires off to the agent.
And there you go. So that's awesome. So they're just using a very, can you repeat that script, Calvin? That script, that it seems like a really simple, very easy thing to say yes to. So what do they say again?
So it depends on if it's the first call or a follow-up call. You know, if it's a follow-up call, they're just checking in. Hey, Gus, just wanted to touch base with you. I know we talked a week ago. Just want to see how your weekend was, see if you had a chance to receive any offers. No, not yet. Okay. Out of curiosity, are you open now just to see if there's an opportunity to net you more money by utilizing our services? And if not, you know, at least gather some more information about what you can do to get your home sold. And it's just those scripts that we use. And if they say yes, then that's our opportunity to get in the door there. And at that point, it falls on the agent.
100%, right? Because I love that, because you're preaching to the choir here. This is what I tell them. The ISA's job is to shake the tree. The ISA's job is to get someone that's willing to take the call, right? The ISA's job is not to set the appointment to go list the property. Sometimes people approach for sale by owners and ISAs that way. Hey, yeah, it should be a come list me from a FSBO. I'm like, you haven't done a lot of FSBO calling, have you? Right? So that's not usually how it goes, right? But the ISA should do that methodical follow. Like you said, Calvin, that's where they add the most value. Make the call. And you know, there's a lot of agents in the room. There's over 30 agents right now, just in the Zoom call right now. And you know, let me know this is true. Drop a comment in the chat if you think this is true. Making those calls consistently is challenging for us because we got everything else we have to do. Got to put out the fires of the day. Got to follow up with our other leads. Got to make, and you got to keep up with those prospecting calls as well. There's a lot of hats that we have to wear as agents. And, you know, if you can take off one of those hats, leverage one of those activities, the most leverageable is that first contact and those follow-up calls, right? Because they're not pitching, they're not talking commissions, they're not talking marketing plans, they're not talking, you know, they're not in that level of detail yet. That's an agent conversation that has to happen. But you can have that ISA open the door a little bit, put their foot in the door. Hey, would you, and I love the way you laid out that script. It's not about listings, it's not about working with me. Do you want to net more money? Because we'd love to talk about that. How does that sound, right? You don't want to net more money. That's okay, sir. No problem. That's a great.
Move on to the next one.
move on to the next one. That's great. That's awesome. That's great. So that's a great. There's so much gold in there. People have to watch the recording on this. This is going to be on YouTube. This will be in the group, and this will be live on the YouTube channel in a couple of days. You got to check that script out. You got to write that down. It's a great one. Gold, gold, gold. But the magic there is the consistency, guys. Don't get fooled. That isn't like a master level script. It's a really compelling offer. It's a good one, but it's like deliver that every single day to all the FSBOs in your area, and you're gonna get appointments. You're gonna get hand raisers. You're gonna get people saying yes to that. It's just that most people don't make those calls. And that's the biggest, you know, challenge there. So great. Let's go up that value stack, Calvin. PPC, right? Talking about Google PPC. So what kind of a lead is that? And why is that so high on the priority list for the ISAs?
So can I go back to that other one real quick before the PPC?
Oh, go for it. Yeah, no, keep going.
Yeah, I wanted to say one more thing. I think this way, and this just from me working with a lot of teams and brokerages and whatnot. I see that that's the biggest issue is that the agents seem to think that the ISAs are supposed to convert and get them these solid appointments like, hey, like I'm supposed to go there and just going to sign the paperwork. And that's not the reality. Like you said, it's shaking the tree, right? So, and I look at it in this way. This is how I look at it. What's your favorite restaurant?
Chili's. Let's go with Chili's.
Okay, Chili's, right? Have you ever been to Chili's and noticed that have you ever seen the waiter or waitress seat you, serve you, go back and cook the food, like all that stuff? No, it'd be a crap show. I don't want to say, you know, the other word, but it'd be a crap show, right? So what I figured out early on is if you have people like in their designated special areas, man, then they knock it out of the park. So the way I look at it is like those ISAs are to bring forth the opportunity that is available in our database, because there's so many more leads in there nowadays because of devices like this and our cell phones and computers and tablets, that you got to mine through those people. And that's all they specialize in, is finding those opportunities for us to convert. But that's the big thing to take away, is that they're there to just bring that fruit lower so that you can pick it from the tree or pick it up from the ground or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that wholeheartedly.
Yeah, for the PPCs, that's Google, that's Bing, that's the search engine networks, things like that. I do those myself. I build those out. And the great thing, so when you understand the lead funnel, and this is what I teach to the agents in our company and whatnot, when you understand the lead funnel, you understand exactly where to focus your attention on, right? And so when you're looking at low-hanging fruit, like for example, Zillow and Realtor.com or Obsidian, those types, they're low, not because of the lead type, but it's because of the amount of work they put into it, right? We don't pay for Zillow leads or anything like that. I refuse to ever invest in that stuff. But those, it's the same concept. Is they're using PPC, they're using social media, but they've got ISAs and client care managers going through all those leads to find the low-hanging fruit. And then once they find them, they get them to an agent for like 35 or 40% or whatever that fee is. It's outrageous. And then if you close the deal, of course, you pay that to them and have your commissions going, when you could essentially do it yourself and build out this process yourself. But the PPC, that's low, not as low as for sale by owners, but those are people who are actually going online and saying, hey, homes for sale in Chattanooga, Tennessee, or homes for sale in Nashville, Tennessee, or homes for sale on a specific golf course, and they're registering and giving you their information. And their time frame is a lot quicker than someone who just saw an ad come by on Facebook, clicked on it, and registered just because they were curious. Now, what we see is those leads, like social media, usually pan out maybe a year or 2 years later. Sometimes they're fast, but it's typically on average about a year or 2 years later.
I got you. No, and that's been my experience as well, 100%. So you see that Google PPC, that's so search engine kind of pay-per-click kind of leads, they're the next priority because they're a little bit further down. They're at least looking for a specific home in the neighborhood, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's more context there. There's more motivation there. So those are the ones that the ISAs hit. And when they hit them, Calvin, what's the typical interaction that they have? Is it like a buyer script? Is it like more, is it a seller script? What's that first interaction typically sound like for the ISA with these PPC leads?
So it depends on where the lead came from. It depends on the type of lead, right? But the one thing I teach the ISAs and the agents as well too is, if you can learn the script specific to the lead, learn that script, but master the conversation, right? So if it's a website PPC lead or something like that, the conversation, you're gonna learn how to ask those appropriate questions to drive them down the path that you want. So, I'll hear a lot of agents say, well, are you qualified, right? Or did you talk to a lender? And we worded a little bit different, just saying, hey, just curiosity, if we find this perfect home, do you know, are you gonna be paying cash, or what type of loan you're gonna be using? Because now we understand if they've talked to a lender, if they've identified the loan types, and if not, if they say, well, we're gonna be using a loan, but we haven't talked to a lender. Hey, I completely understand that. What if we can get you over to one of our lenders so we can help you identify the loan type? Just because certain houses qualify for different loans, and we want to make sure we put those houses in front of you. So we're teaching them how to help qualify them up front too. And it's, again, just through asking questions without being pushy. It's all on, those are our scripts. Our scripts are very question based, but it is specific to the type of leads.
Yeah, because if you want to turn off a lead and get them to ghost you, it's how fast can you ask them, are you pre-approved for a mortgage yet? When do you want to go see homes? Like, how many bedrooms and bathrooms do you want? I mean, those are transactor questions, right? You're asking the lead, are you transacting now or is it tomorrow? Like, when are you going to be transacting? Because I want a transactor. That's what I want. And the leads, again, put yourself in their shoes. They don't want to hear that, right? That doesn't help them at all. Like, you're not solving a problem for them. You're not showing any curiosity about where they are, the buying process. And the reality is, most of these leads are not transacting in the next month, right? So you have to actually have a real conversation with them, and you can find that information, but you should ask them in a different way. A question that's relevant, regardless of where they are in the journey. Are you pre-approved for a mortgage? Is a 90 days out or less question. Like, they're actively looking now. There is a 0% chance you're gonna say yes to that, right? The very low probability. But if you actually ask them something relevant, I love the way you phrase that. We can find you an amazing home. I'm just getting started. Oh, I love working people with that. Don't worry about that. I totally understand that. That's not a problem. When you find a perfect home, would you be paying cash, or are you going to get some kind of a loan for that? Right? Very innocuous question, very relevant. Even if they're a year out, they should be thinking about that, right? They're a year out. That's a really good question. Another one that I like a lot that I got from Barry Jenkins' book. I'm plugging this book again because I think it's a good book. So Calvin, you're I don't know if you've read this or not yet, but you're preaching from this book. Barry says a lot of the same things you're saying. That the fastest way to treat a lead is to go into transacting questions. That you're going to automatically ghost them, right? So people on here, Barry's an LCA moderator, is an awesome guy. Check out this book, Too Nice for Sales. You're probably seeing this backwards because this is not a mirror, but Too Nice. The book is called Too Nice for Sales, and it says exactly what you're saying, Calvin. That you should add value regardless of where they are. You should ask the question, they can answer it regardless of where they are. They might be transacting the next month, maybe, but if they're a year out, how can you ask that question where it's relevant, even if they're a year out, right? That's a great way. Another one that I like from his book is that, hey, instead of asking how many bedrooms or bathrooms you want, that's a transactive question, right? Or more, it's further down the funnel. What would you change about the home you have right now, right? That's a question they can answer right now, a year out, 2 years. Now, anyone in America can answer that question. What would you change about the home you have right now? Is it too big, too small, no home office, commute times, work from home, downsizing, upsizing, new family, more bedrooms, like that they can answer no matter what. And I like that question a lot. And your question is very similar to that, Calvin. That's a really well thought out question of what can I ask you that even if you're a year out, if you're comfortable answering that, you're comfortable answering. That's great. That's awesome. So I love that approach. I absolutely love that approach for these Google PPC leads. And Calvin, what is the typical time that it takes to convert those? You said social media a year or two out. That's very consistent with what I've seen. And what about these Google PPC leads? Is it less than a year? Is it a year to year and a half? What do you typically see for these leads?
So that really varies. And again, it goes by the questioning, right? So we'll get people that register on there and they'll say something like, oh, well, we want to wait till our lease is up, right? And so we may come back with a question of, okay, fantastic. I completely understand that. Out of curiosity, are you wanting to start the process when your lease is up or be in a home by the time your lease is up? Right? So, because those are two different questions. Because if they want to start the process, well, we all understand if they start the process, they're going to be doing a month to month, which is very expensive, or they're going to renew the lease, right? Yes. So they'll usually say, well, we want to be in a home. Fantastic. I'm glad you guys registered on our website now, because typically it takes anywhere from 6 to 8 months to find a property, especially in this competitive market. So let's go ahead and get the ball rolling, and let's go ahead and build out a game plan for you so we can get you in a home by the time your lease is up versus you starting and having to go month to month or renew the lease. So it just depends. Yeah, it just depends on how we ask the questions, right? I will tell you this though, and this is where the ISAs come into play with us, and I really, really love is it goes back to this whole thing of agents. So I figured out the agents really need to be on appointments, right? They're sales partners. They need to be out in the field on appointments. So when we get someone that is not ready to transact, the ISAs continue to follow up with them, along with the CRM and the AI and things like that. And that's another area where if you can perfect that, you won't really lose business, right? So we start to see the activity increase more and more through, because everything we do, we channel them back to the website. We try to keep them on our site as much as possible. So let's say I've spoken to someone, they say, well, we're about 6 to 8 months out, and they weren't ready to do anything. They weren't ready to get pre-qualified. We want to make sure that when we take them out, they hire us by signing a buyer's rep or something like that. And that they've gone through all the necessary steps before we jump in the car. And so until they do that, we're happy to send houses and whatnot. Well, the ISAs also keep tabs on who's being very active on the website. So we put them depending on their time frame, we put them in the right pipeline and they nurture them from there. If the way our CRM is set up, if they're starting to be more active, the system will alert the ISAs, or I call them client care managers, that what's going on. They'll reach out and say, hey, we noticed you've been back on the website. Has something in your situation changed? Are you guys looking to get a little bit more serious about the process right now? And then if that's the case, great, fantastic. Looks like you were working with Portia early on. Let me get you back in touch with her and see if we can get you in for a consultation or something like that. You know what I mean? So again, that big area where they come into play is that nurturing. And it's the same thing for the physical. It's the nurturing. So I wouldn't even say it's so much as that 5-minute mark of new leads. It's really I think their strongest feature is the nurturing aspect of it, because you can do something. I know I'm very familiar with Barry Jenkins. I've not read any of his stuff, but I'm very, very familiar with him too. He's one of the people I follow. But I think where the perfect setup is if you have something like a company like Conversion Monster or Versa.io or something who does the initial contact for within the first 5 minutes, because that's what you're signed to do. And then if it's not no conversion there, allow the ISAs to really nurture everything from there on, and then leverage them on the outbound prospecting with circle prospecting, expires, and for sale by owners and that type of stuff.
I love it. No, 100%. And I love that you have such a wide breadth of different lead sources. Because that's definitely refreshing to see. And does the approach? So, for example, let's grab another one of those. Let's grab the expires or the withdrawals, cancels, right? What's the approach there? Is it because they're not going to use the same script for BizBo? It's a different scenario, right? When I first contact on those, are they calling them the day they expire? When do you bring in the ISAs there?
Yeah, so all of our stuff comes in. You've got like sources like RedX or Vulcan 7 or My Plus Leads, and those type of land voice. And so everything we use funnels into our CRM. So everyone works out of one. That's another thing. We only work out of one space. Versus,
and I want to talk to you more. Well, I'll drill more about that because you've mentioned the CRM multiple times now, and everyone's team. I'll drill into that too, because I think that's a great story as well. Wherever they come from, they go into the CRM and they're tagged appropriately, and they're in the right spot in the CRM.
Yes, yeah. So they're tagged, they're filtered, and they're sorted out appropriately, so everyone's easy to find. But everyone works out of one space. I did figure out early on that if you give too many spaces, it just gets messy, right? So they all work out in one space and they call from there. But the script with expires is much different, and obviously they're upset, their home didn't sell. And so we're trying to understand, are they still, if they had received an offer, would they have taken it? Or a good offer, would they have taken it? Are they still in the market? And find out what was it they think caused their home not to sell, right? And we're just straightforward with them, like, hey, listen, we'd love to come out there and just sit with you and just explore what it might take to get your home sold in today's market and just see if it makes sense. And if not, at the end of the day, you can explore some other options, but we'd love the opportunity just to sit down with you and assess your situation, because not everything's a one-step marketing thing. Like there's not just one marketing plan for every property. There's like we have a cash offer program that we introduced to our company, right? So it could be a situation where our buyer buys their home and then buys their new home for them and then allows them to buy it from them like a cash buyer. And then we get the option to sell their current home, right? And then, whatever that difference is there, they get to net that, but they don't have to go through all that whole. So we've got tons of options there, and we let them know that as well.
Cool. Awesome. That's great. Because you're right. It's a completely different scenario. It's a very different scenario from the sub-owner, and they get lumped together sometimes because they're both kind of cold calling, more motivated prospects, but the approach has to be very different. Very different. You mentioned
very much more empathetic.
Yeah, 100%. Because that physical is like checking in after the weekend. Like that's really the time to get them. When it's an expired or withdrawn, you guys go hot and heavy that first day. What's that follow-up kind of look like, for example, for an expired or withdrawn?
So if we can identify what their motivation was that initially got them going, like for example, if they want to move to Florida, and if they say they want to move to Florida because of family and they wanted to be there before the holidays, they can be a lot sooner than if they were just looking to downsize or something like that, right? So it just depends. So that number one thing is to figure out what their motivation is. Why were they initially selling it? So depending on that determines how soon they do it, right? The other part to that is understanding. So if they're looking, like for example, if they're looking to downsize but looking to buy, they may say, well, I don't want to buy right now because the rates are through the roof, right? Well, we all know they're not. They're just back to normal. But everyone seems to think they're high. They're just back to normal. And we explained to them like, hey, listen, homes are still selling for top dollar in your home in your market right now, right? Understand this, that when rates were lower, it was a very, very competitive market where people were bidding $30,000, $40,000 over asking price to get the home because everyone was trying to buy. You have an opportunity now to sell your home for top dollar, purchase that property without a lot of competition that you're looking to get, and then when rates drop again, just refinance. You're like, oh, we never thought about it like that, you know? So yeah, so it really just depends on what their motivation was.
Yeah, I love that. And Calvin, you know, with the FSBO, it's that weekly check-in time. How long do you call? Like, do you have that information? How many times, or how many days or weeks or months do you try to contact like an expired or withdrawn? Is it a weekly call as well? Is it very intense at the beginning? Is there a difference in that sequence or no?
Well, I'll tell you my favorite one, Diane, and everyone at the company loves her. She hated realtors. She just did not like real estate agents at all. We followed up with her for 7 months.
Oh, there you go. Nice.
That's how many deals I've done with her so far. In less than 2 years. Yeah, less than 2.5 years.
So she sold and bought with you. So that's at least 2. And did she refer another deal to you guys? Like 3 transactions in 2 years?
We've done over 14 deals with her.
Wow.
And she will not do anything without us. That we've earned her. But the thing was, it was the consistent follow-up. That was the major thing, was the consistent follow-up. And then once the opportunity was presented to us in my lab, because I'm the one who worked with her, at that point, it was just helping her understand that, hey, we can help you. And we proved it on that first one, and we've done it to the point she even gave us her own personal home. So she's an investor, and she flips houses. And so we've done 14 deals with her. It's been crazy.
Wow. But it took a lot of work to get her to become a client, but that was like a jackpot, right? Like helping that out.
I love her. Well, I even invited her over to the house to meet the kids and everything. She's amazing. She's like family to us. My wife loves her, everything. But it was just interesting going from her, and she sent us several of her friends as well too. But it's just interesting to see someone go from not really liking real estate agents to, as an investor, to doing that many deals with us. And it was because of the persistent follow-up. She was for sale by owner when we met her.
I gotcha. I love that, right? But following up, not giving up, like making sure that you're in it for the long haul. But and for the people kind of rolling their eyes, I understand how challenging that is. Doing follow-up for months and months and months without you don't have an end in sight, not yet. But that's where leverage can help you out, right? Because as opposed to a lot of agents, like, oh my goodness, I have to make another phone call. This is the ISA's job. This is their job description. Make the call. And I promise you that they approach it very differently.
Well, I'll give you one. There's another one we didn't get. He was for sale by owner. And I think they followed up for 3 months. He's a minister. And he lived in North Carolina. His daughter was still here at the house because she was going to college. And so they followed up it was about 3 months or so. And we ended up not getting it because he got it under contract for sale by owner. But here's the crazy thing. He called us and said, hey, listen, do you guys do anything for contract services? And I was like, we actually do. So if we're just representing you in the contract or just doing the paperwork, we charge 1%. He said, well, I'd like for you guys to do that. Your follow-up was so good. I would like for you guys to represent me on the follow-up side of it. And so we ended up doing that, and we closed the deal for him. And of course, we charged, no, it was 1.5% we charged on that.
There you go.
And it was just doing the paperwork.
There you go. I love that. So, looking for every opportunity, looking for that, because, that's the ROI, even on a 1.5% for a prospecting lead is immense, right? Like, hey, you didn't buy that lead. You already have the follow-up system in place. It's like, it's almost all of its profit. And I absolutely love that, Calvin. So you teased this a few times. You've mentioned CRM and systems, bringing it together. So I'm sure people are dying to hear about this. What CRM do you have? And how long did it take you? What step to get it to this level? Because you've got all these different lead sources and your entire team works prospecting leads, inbound internet leads, social media leads. They all work them within the CRM, correct?
So, listen, I think all CRMs are good. I'm going to be honest with you. It just depends on if you use it or not, if you understand it. There are different levels of CRM. My favorite two are, we use Chime, but my favorite two are Chime and Follow Up Boss, hands down.
We're LCA partners, by the way. They're partners in the LCA. You guys get special deals if you jump in there. Plug in my fellow sponsors. They both are partners of LCA. Check them out. Check out those deals.
Oh yeah, I think it depends on what you're looking for. Chime has more of an all-in built-in system, whereas Follow Up Boss, I feel like integrates a lot more with third-party systems. So with Follow Up Boss, you can be more customized and building out what you want it to integrate with. Chime is more of, okay, we have that already built into the system, right? So it just depends on what you're looking for. But I think they're both great. We use Chime. I've used Chime now for 5-6 years, I think, somewhere around there. And so that's what we use. And I'm happy with it. I'm happy with it. I do like the filters in Follow Up Boss a little bit better, but overall, I'm happy with the CRM. But they're all really good. I mean, I've seen people take Sierra Interactive and pair it with Follow Up Boss CRM using Sierra's website, or, but I think you have the tiers. You've got like the tier 1, which is just the CRMs. You have the tier 2, which are the mid-level, like Firepoint, Sierra Interactive, Real Geeks, those type. And then you've got the tier 3, which is like Boomtown, Chime, Commission Zine, the more expensive one. But essentially, they all do the same thing. But yes, we use Chime. That was a long answer for that.
I love it. I appreciate that. So, and Calvin, I want to ask you this. We got a few minutes left. How did you feel that joining our program, Build Your ISA? You're one of the first people to join that program, by the way. The first few months, you were like an early adopter. So, and that made a lot more sense. You're from the tech background. You're comfortable with trying things out. So you're one of the first group of clients that joined that program. How do you feel that our Build Your ISA program helped you have just such an amazing outcome from that? And I think you have a lot to do with that because you run a great team. But how do you think that program helped you give you a leg up? What do you think about that?
I'll be honest with you, because of how much I got burned with other companies. You were actually the biggest influence on that, because I think when we first met, I was very hesitant. I was like, man, I'm not spending more money on more programs that are.
We've been burned before. That's the issue, for sure.
And I think the cool thing about you is that even when I was confused on some things, man, you helped me through it and walk through it. You were always easy to get a hold of. You were very hands-on. I can tell you genuinely love your company and love what you do. So I was like, that was like the thing that made it awesome for me. So you asked about my experience, right? So the experience has been amazing. It's taught me a lot. It's also taught me a lot about my expectations too, and what I should and shouldn't expect, right? I early on, I had to realize these are not agents, right? They're not supposed to do the agent's job. They're not supposed to replace what an agent does. They're supposed to assist us.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like me expecting the cook to come out and wait the tables for me. They're not going to do that, but I'm sure they'll help me run some of the food out if I need to, right?
Absolutely. And those examples from the restaurant, because you used to work at a restaurant, right? Those are very relevant examples, because the division of labor, there's few businesses that have the division of labor down as well as the restaurant industry. Like it's like whole up, like the hostess and waiter and busboy and the sous chef and the cook and the amazing division of labor to run a very efficient customer experience, right? And I love that example, because that's exactly what you should shoot for. A team, real estate team, shouldn't be a group of people that do everything for you. It's a pretty poor definition of real estate team. The power of the team is that specialization and just nailing that role. Don't be one agent that does 10 things okay. Be 10 agents that do one thing the best that it can be done, right? That's the model we should kind of shoot for. My thoughts.
I agree. And then also don't be afraid to, as I think our egos get in the way a lot of times. We're not supposed to be good at everything. So the Portia who runs our team, she's the team lead. right? And I respect that, right? Yes, I'm the owner of the company, but she's the actual team lead, and she does a hell of a job as a team leader. Things that I'm not good at. I'm not good at operations. We have Macy that does that. She's freaky. She like she remembers every transaction we've done, and we've done hundreds of them, right? And I'm just like, how do you remember that? I can't remember what we closed last week. You know what I mean? But even in our meeting today, she was just spouting out, but that's what she's good at. So you hire people for what they're good at. I will say this: one thing that you and I do with when we were doing the hiring process is the DISC assessment were really vital in making sure that we got the right people for the right type of role, or ISA role. Because there's a huge difference in OSA versus ISA, right?
Yeah.
So if you put an OSA in an ISA role, it's probably not going to pan out. Or if you get someone who has more of an administrative background, they're not going to really enjoy being on the phones as much. So that was something when we were looking at the DISC profiles that was very vital to making sure we picked the right ones when we did that.
Yeah, and just for people that that are following us at home, OSA versus ISA, the outbound prospecting, cold calling kind of role versus the ISA, like the inbound lead follow-up conversion kind of specialist. So that's what you mean, right, Calvin? The cold caller versus that inbound ISA nurturing appointment setting ISA, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other part of it is with the ISAs, don't overthink it. Don't overthink it. Like if you want them to specialize, I tell them, hey, listen, when you're, and we, oh, well, I'm sorry. Let me go back to this part real quick.
Yeah.
They're part of your company. They're part of your team. They're part of your family. They are people. Treat them as such. I see people they're like treating, that's one thing that gets under my skin. Our ISAs, which I call them client cares, they're in the meetings with us. They're in the trenches with us. They get the same holidays that my employees get, and the same thing is like, listen, once you've been here a year, you get paid holidays as well too. They are part of our family. And that's another thing, keeping that culture good, right? Because it's sometimes I see them.
I've heard, Calvin, and this sets you apart from a lot of folks that I've worked with, is that the ISAs love being on that team. That people think that's an intangible, that's kind of wishy-washy. That is I feel that's been a huge part of your success, right? Because you created a team, a culture that people want to be a part of. And because it's not just about being nice to people in Miami meetings. It is a high performing culture, okay? So it is welcoming and nurturing. That's true, that's important. But it is a high performing culture that also happens to be welcoming and nurturing. So those two things, that's a difficult balance to strike. I think you've struck it at a really, really high level. And we're pretty much out of time right now. But Calvin, there's a lot, there's questions we didn't get to. I apologize for that. Calvin, if people want to learn more, people want to, reach out to you, follow up with anything, what is the best way to reach you?
Email me or do Facebook or Instagram. You can find me. My Instagram is Your Realtor Calvin at Your Realtor Calvin, and my Facebook, not remember what it is. But you can email me. It's Calvin at ChattanoogaPremierHomes.com.
Yeah, you can look up Calvin. His name is pretty. You don't see his name all the time. So Calvin Shropshire. That is not an easy name to duplicate. So you can search for him there. And if folks want to continue the conversation with us with PowerISA, check out PowerISA.com/LCA. We've got a great offer for members of LabCoatAgents. Check it out there. Get an experienced, high-performing ISA on your team. $5 to $6 an hour. You don't have any kind of monthly contracts, nothing like that. This is 100% of the system that we help you build and manage and that you own going forward. So thank you so much, Calvin. Like always, it's been a joy, man. This has been a great session. Tara and all the folks at LCA, thank you so much.
Thank you, Gus.